Uh,
Now, Mr. Musk started with the USAID. That handles a lot of foreign aid for America. American people are very generous. But I'll tell you what Mr. Musk discovered. I find it fascinating. He discovered that the American taxpayers are giving money to Afghanistan. He found that we are giving money to Yemen. He found that we are giving money to Syria. I didn't know that. Some of our foreign aid is going to Yemen, Afghanistan, Syria. He found that the USAID has 10,000 people, 10,000 people, employees. And every year they give away $40 billion. He found that the USAID gave money to support electric vehicles in Vietnam. Our money, taxpayer money. He found that USAID gave money to a transgender clinic in India. I didn't know that. I bet you the American people didn't know that. He found that USAID gave $1.5 million to a Serbian LGBTQ group called Grupa Izadaji. I probably mispronounced that. My apologies. Anyway, they got $1.5 million to, quote, advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business community. He reviewed a study and then went and checked it. The study was done by the Middle East Forum. They found that USAID spent $164 million to support radical organizations around the world. We're not talking Cub Scout troops here. We're talking about radical organizations around the world. They gave $122 million of that to groups aligned with foreign terrorist organizations. Our taxpayer money. According to this report in Mr. Musk, the USAID has given millions of dollars to, quote, organizations in Gaza controlled by Hamas. Why aren't my colleagues talking about that? Recipients of the money, they found, have, quote, called for their lands to be cleansed from the impurity of Jews. That's what we're giving foreign aid to. I kind of find what he's found out interesting. He found that we gave $2 million, USAID did, for sex changes in Guatemala. He found that we gave $20 million to produce a new Sesame Street show in Iraq.
Whoa, 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 whoa. No. Look, everything he's critiquing, I'm down with. Everything that Senator Kennedy there is critiquing, I'm down with. But no one should ever have the audacity to critique Sesame Street in Iraq. I mean, come on. This is Sesame Street in Iraq.
السلام عليكم يا جماعة. أهلا وسهلا فيكم. خلينا ندللكم على الحروف الأبجدية. يلا خلينا نبدأ.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. It took 3 minutes to set that clip up. 3 minutes of Senator Kennedy listing things off to set up that clip, to set that clip up, ready to go. Set that clip ready to go. That was money well spent. Oh, my God. Oh my God, $20 million. I think they could have done it a little cheaper than 20 million, but 20 million is a lot of money. 20 million is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. We can't, I keep saying, we can't really appreciate, these vast sums. This is a succinct way of putting that $20 million. People don't understand billions of government spending, but they do understand their own taxes. Average U.S. taxpayer pays $20,000 a year. Instead of saying USAID spent $20 million on Sesame Street in Iraq, say they spent the entire tax bill of 1,000 Americans. Wow. The entire tax bill of 1,000 Americans. Yeah, that's a good way of phrasing it. That is a good way of phrasing it. So, I apologize for my lateness this evening. I apologize. I mentioned yesterday that my sleep schedule is really, really, really wonky. Really, I mean, it's usually wonky. I'm not going to kid you. It's usually wonky. But now it's like, I don't know. You remember? Some of you might remember, like I was saying yesterday, that like I crashed, I hadn't slept in 24 hours, and then like at the end of the show, I was like, all right, I'm tired, I'm going. Right? If you stayed from like beginning to end, you saw in the beginning I was mentioning how like I hadn't slept in 24 hours, and at some point I'm going to crash, and then in the end I was like, all right, that's it, I'm done. I still, after I got off, I still couldn't fall asleep for another 8 hours. I don't know what the heck is wrong. I don't know what's wrong with me. But yeah, so then I slept for like only like 5 hours, woke up, and then at 6:30, I was like, I need to take a nap before I do a show. And I wanted to nap for 2 hours and ended up waking up like 4 hours later. So, I mean, I set my alarm. It's blaring away. Lawgic's like, get up. So, yeah. Anyhow, here we are. Man. Lot going on. He referenced about money being spent on terrorists. I don't know if it's a different way of doing accounting. I don't know what the reason is as far as like, what the different takes are with respect to the whole how he does his accounting, where he's talking about this much money or that much money. I'm not sure exactly how they do it. Not exactly sure how they do that whole calculation, because Daily Caller has a much bigger number for how much was wasted on terrorist organizations. Specifically, they put that number at $1.3 billion. Biden administration filled terrorist coffers with over $1.3 billion before Trump took a wrecking ball to foreign aid. A freaking wrecking ball. More than $1.3 billion in taxpayer funds in the Biden administration ended up helping groups that sponsored or committed terrorism. Federal watchdog reports and other documents show former President Joe Biden's aid programs funneled the money toward a network of terrorism in the Muslim world, largely by reversing Trump-era policies. National security experts told Daily Caller News Foundation the new Trump administration must take the trend more seriously. Quote, we should not be putting money into any country or areas where a terrorist group remains in control, Bill Raggio, senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, said. Raggio said that aid, like money, is fungible. And this is one of the things they kept talking about, ever since October 7th, that we need to send the Palestinians aid. If you could get the aid to them, I can understand that. That makes sense. The problem is that we have no effective way of actually doing it because it's controlled by terrorists. That's the whole point. They end up the goods end up on the black market. It doesn't. And then people say you're heartless. You're killing abuelos or whatever. However you say that in Arabic. It winds up propping up these groups. Counterterrorism analysts told the DCNF it allows them to use whatever money they have to invest into their terrorist activities. State Department told DCNF last week that national security is and will remain a top priority after President Trump announced he's reevaluating foreign aid programs. The review period is a measure to put in place for us to align our ongoing work with the America First agenda. The department said the results the in-depth review will be communicated transparently. And more on that. Here's a succinct breakdown of that. U.S. workforce slashed to 294. Abolishment is proposed. The United States, this is just if you go to like X News, so they had different news stories that that they cover. So they basically came out with this is like I really like this for setting up a show. A little how the sausage is made over here and back at Good Lawgic. So one of the ways that the sausage is made is you go into X News and they'll give you different stories that are being covered, and you can get a whole bunch of different links to the same topic and issue. I can sort of arrange that properly. Unfortunately, because of the fact that I just woke up 45 minutes ago or so. So you're actually seeing how we're doing this a little bit on the fly, but because I would normally be taking out some links that I think are most relevant and just sharing them one by one. The United States Agency for International Development is facing significant changes, including a drastic reduction of its workforce from over 14,000 employees to only 294, as mandated by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, quickly trying to earn favor in the eyes of MAGA. Legislation to abolish USAID entirely, get rid of it, afuera, has been proposed by Congressman Greg Steube. I saw elsewhere that Thomas Massie joined in this, with additional critique focusing on the agency's funding of media outlets, including BBC Media Action. These actions have sparked debate over the transparency and effectiveness of USAID's operations, both domestically and internationally. So I normally would be going through, pre-show, when I'm doing my prep beforehand, I would be going through something like this and breaking down like, all right, this is what I'll share with them. That's 14,000 cut to 294. That is an incredible reduction. They cut 97% of the staff. 10% of the staff would be 1,400. And 300, it's like 98% of the staff. That's a remarkable cut. Imagine in a call. Yeah, we don't need you. We don't need you. You're not in the top 2% of USAID most important folks. You're not in the top 2%. Sorry. USAID Somalia. There's actually an X account called USAID Somalia. What the hell is this? Why? Just why? Why? USAID Somalia, 87,000 followers. I guess they're all Ilhan fans. I don't know. Anyway, this is where I just co-sponsored Greg Steube's bill to abolish the United States Agency for International Development. This is what he wrote. Abolishment of the United States Agency in general, beginning the date of this enactment to this act. Make this a little bigger so you can see it as well as I can. That's not going to work. This will work better. Beginning on the date of the enactment of this act, no federal funds may be made available to carry out any of the functions, duties, or responsibilities assigned or delegated to the administrator of the United States Agency for International Development. The unobligated balance of each amount made available to the administrator of the United States Agency for International Development as the day before the date of enactment of this act is rescinded. Any other assets or liabilities the agency as such day shall be transferred to the Secretary of State. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I do want to alert you. Obviously, you know enough about me to know that I'm all for slashing government waste. I am all for slashing government waste. Everything that he's proposing here, I'm on board with. I do want to alert you to one reason why I would not endorse this bill. There's a flaw here in the bill. And I'm saying this very seriously, not as a joke at all. There's a flaw in this bill because a tiny percentage of the $48 billion, some percentage of it, from what I understand, and I'm just telling you what was shared with me by a viewer here. He's often watching this show. He might be watching right now. Some of those USAID funds actually go for things that you and I would likely support, like loans to American farmers. Supposedly, and this is what was shared with me by via private message in X, when Trump put a pause on their spending, he made certain exceptions, including this, including loans for farmers. Think of what was it called? Let me check. Let me check from that message. I don't want to misspeak here. I want to give you only the most accurate information as I have it, because I was looking into this. Yeah, so they're called FSA loans to farmers, and Trump excluded it. He's like, no, they still get their money. He excluded a couple of different agencies. The problem is that based on the red tape and the way things work, some farmers are claiming that they're being told that there's no way for them to pause everything and have exceptions. This is what some farmers are being told. Now, this is red tape, which clearly the bureaucracy can fix relatively quickly, you would think, once they're alerted to the problem. But those folks, obviously need their money. It's a benefit to them and, to them directly and to America. If not directly, certainly very transparent. The indirect benefit to us is very transparent. So, there has to be some sort of level on a more granular than you or I are going to be interested in doing. But there needs to be a little bit more granular work before you throw out that tiny little baby in this swamp of bathwater. Let's make sure that we're saving the baby. And I guess it's like an ocean swamp of bathwater, and there's a baby in there, which we care about. And I just would urge Congress. I'm sure they've heard the complaints. I'm sure they're aware of the situation. I'm sharing this with you so that you're aware of that situation. That just a quick hatchet to say yank of every penny would be something that is not appropriate, because there are beneficiaries of the program who I think most Americans would be like, yeah, those folks, that's what USAID is supposed to be. That's what it was always supposed to be, and those are genuine needs that should not be interrupted, because you're talking about people's American livelihoods, and these are folks who are just trying to go out and produce for you and me. So, yeah, I just wanted to alert you to that. But apparently, there's a big slash coming. Big slash coming. It's already come. It's the slash. The slash is just beginning. We're less than 3 weeks. This has been 2.5 weeks of Trump. Oh my God, this is the greatest president ever. He's the greatest president ever. I said it. Yeah, I'm aware of Washington. I mean, Washington won the Revolutionary War, but that's before his president. This is amazing. It's amazing. This is amazing. I mean, this is crazy. Musk. Oh, is my thing still not working? I had all these problems with my. Try getting this to work. Let's see if I get this going. Yeah, sorry, my bells and whistles aren't working. I forgot to remedy that, and so that's not going to happen. But on desktop, I got it. I'll find it there. I should keep it on desktop. Nah. Well, anyway, I see your no balls walls and raise you to big balls Thank you and good night. Thank God bless you, Proxy Loxy. Thank you so very much. Can we please give our money to the Iditarod races instead? I enjoy those. I feel you. I feel you. That would certainly be less wasteful. But I got a feeling that a lot of Americans right now are like, shut the entire spigot down. I just figured out because of USAID effing away my tax money, I can only afford to send the $5. Freaking USAID. No words from Samantha Power about her beloved USAID. Where is she hiding herself and our money? I don't know. I love how we give away money to the rest of the world, but only loan aid to Americans. Typical America last policy. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. It's true. It's true. Yeah, let's give away. We're not recouping. We're not recouping any of that Sesame Street money or the transgendering mice money. That wasn't a loan. You guys saw that? Nancy Mace coming out there reading off about how they spent millions, $10 million trying to get monkeys, mice and rats to become fertile as transgender. It's just one thing after another. Hundreds of millions in some of these ridiculous projects. Millions of dollars going to operas in Sri Lanka, Yemen. Millions of dollars for electrical vehicles in Vietnam. Not to mention $40 billion invested, $40 billion with a B, invested into building electric charging ports, which they built 8 of them. 8 of them. There is so much corruption. It's almost like the government was being run by like the mafia must have been skimming off the top. You start to think like they had to be skimming off. Someone has to be skimming this money. Someone's got to be doing it. Indeed, greatest president ever. I'm getting to a point where it's like, I don't think we need any qualifiers. Just those 3 words. I'm starting to think we don't need any qualifiers. Any qualifiers. No chat goal tonight. I should do a chat goal. I should. It's a shorter show tonight. A little bit of a shorter show. I did not put down a chat goal. But Dominion After Dark has rated this stream over in Rumble. God, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, dads. All you folks from Dominion After Dark. I assume that the acronym there, Dominion After Dark, is welcome along, all you daddies. I don't know. I made that up, but I could be. So I didn't put a chat goal in there. Do you feel lack of? I made that up. So I'm already doing a locals after show. What do you want me to sing an Italian song? If I what am I supposed to? Give me a goal. What should I do? I give you all my blood, sweat, and tears. What else can I do? You want your money back? No. I feel like there's a bank raid now. People are like, give me back my money. I want my money. Hey, Tippy Turtle walking down the street. What is this? I have all these weird. No. All right. Should we get into the feature? Where is it? Oh, but one more thing I wanted to cover first. 2 more things. This was funny. Al Green looking for some love after he came out yesterday. This is definitely what it is. I'm surprised it's only $40 billion a year. I'm surprised it's only $40 billion. Not going to kid you. All right. Here's Al Green trying to gin up support for the impeachment of Trump.
That the protests don't have a plan. Well, the plan.
People say the protests don't have a plan, meaning the impeachment protests don't have a plan. Here's his plan.
And is here. This is the plan. Protest, complain now, impeach later.
Let's get to calls.
Oh, we're gonna complain now and impeach later. That's a plan. That's a plan. Okay. All right.
Lines have lit up. Richard in Savannah, Georgia, Republican. You're up first, Richard.
Thank you. I watched you yesterday with the Democrat Party out protesting everything that Elon Musk is trying to do for the American people. The USAID is a 100% of money laundering scheme around the world, kickbacks back to the Democrat Party, whether it's through the Clinton Foundation in Haiti, $4.4 billion and $84 million went to her daughter, Chelsea Clinton. All y'all have is impeachments and race and gender, et cetera, and you actually do nothing for the people of America today. I think the Democrats should sit back and let America see what it's like to reduce the people in government, the wasteful spending. And all y'all can do is just complain and be negative, and we're sick of it. And also,
Richard, let's have the congressman.
Let's cut you off and have the congressman respond. We don't want to hear any feedback from you anymore. Well, let's just cut you off now because I don't know how it is off camera. When the camera was focused on Al Green, she was like, "We're having connection issues." They've got to have their connection issues. No checkle. Where's my 2K for the deleted joke stream? Okay, first and foremost, it was 1K. It was 1K that you paid for the joke. Let's be fair. It was 1K, and you saw the joke. So, you got some Native American blood in you. Let us go. Some Native American blood there, because every time it's like, where's my money back? Where's my money? I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I'm just saying. I don't know. Sent you a DM of Samantha Powers on CNN tonight. I'm Kofi Kimmy. Let me see what you sent me. I've gotten stuff from you in the past. I'm Kofi. I don't see a DM from you. No. I believe you. But for one reason or another, it's almost like when I try to get emails, I'll have like Lady Lawgic send me an email. And it's like, I don't know where it went. Look. This is not me. They're my messages. When I go to my message requests, nope. So I don't know. I can't believe I've never gotten a DM from you before. Really? It's hard to imagine. I don't know. Maybe I'll see it later. Who knows? Maybe we will. We'll see what happens. But thank you, Kimmy. Trump must belong on Mount Rushmore. They should make like a new Mount Rushmore. A new one. Just like supporting the leader in Tracksuit Fund. God bless you for that. Definitely appreciate that. So I wanted to share with you a couple of clips here from Trump, which is just another reason to love. I do think that Butler may have been like a real change and such an improvement in who he is.
The element, the everything that's going to be happy. People of religion are going to be happy again. And I really believe you can't be happy without religion, without that belief. I really believe it. I just don't see how you can be. So let's bring religion back. Let's bring God back into our lives. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much. Great honor. Thank you.
That was the end of it. There was two other clips that I had. I put this together quickly. put that one. This is him saying two of the very short clips in the same speech.
Honestly, it changed something in me. I feel even stronger. I believed in God, but I feel much more strongly about it. Something happened. So thank you. Thank you.
And one more short clip here of Trump from that same. Oh, well, that led to this. This I did have in the right order. That was him talking about Butler. This is what he announced as far as what the impact that's had on him.
To confront such weaponization and
This is how it's manifesting into your life.
religious persecution, today I'm signing an executive order to make our Attorney General, who's a great person, she's going to be a great Attorney General, Pam Bondi, the head of a task force, brand new, to eradicate anti-Christian bias. About time, right? Anti-Christian bias.
A task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias. Never thought you would need one of those, right? America never thought it would need one of those. Now, I already hear the screaming harpies. I'm already hearing them scream, separation of church and state. In my brain, I'm hearing. I haven't seen it. Be surprised if we don't hear people screaming that. Assuming there is that screaming going on out there, or that screaming is yet to come, I'll just cut that off at the pass, and I'll say, yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. That's not a concern. I don't think that that's a legitimate legal concern. I do think that he's entitled to make a task force against anti-Christian bias. Same way you can make it against anti-Muslim bias, anti-Jewish bias, anti-Asian bias. You can make it against anti-Christian bias. And I applaud him for it. I applaud him for it because, frankly, the church has been under attack. It has been under attack. Hopefully, this task force doesn't become weaponized the way the others seem to become somewhat weaponized. I don't want to see any of these task forces weaponized, but I do think that we've seen that that folks have been under attack for being religious Christian. And basically the woke anti-religion group just seem to feel as if it's open season on going after anyone who's quote unquote part of the majority, which is just ridiculous, especially if they're right-leaning at all. So, or they express anything that's right-leaning. I think there's a natural built-in assumption that they're going to be right-leaning if they're religious, because I guess being religious is an indicator of sanity. So they assume if you're sane, you're probably not a lefty. That's probably where the link comes from. Just a thought. All right. Yeah. And this is exactly what the anti-Christian task force should be going after. 100%. 100%. No, I'm just getting there, Shy. I'm just getting there. Too shy to shy. I'm just getting into the treason now. Time to talk about the treason. And frankly, the only person I've seen talking about this, and I really want to dissect this story. I'm going to share with you a video. When he's talking, some of it gets a little bit complicated, but we're going to try to get through most of this story through Michael Schellenberger, talking about his revelations of potential treason that goes all the way back to Trump 45. Goes back to Trump 45. So let's hear from Michael. This, you might remember Michael Schellenberger. He was one of the individuals involved in the Twitter files and revealing that, he and Matt Taibbi. And here is Mr. Schellenberger doing his thing. And I don't recall, I looked at this story this morning. I don't recall if he mentions treason, but the first thing I thought was, the first thought I had was, this is friggin' treason. And it's not by the usual suspects. It's not by the usual suspects. It's definitely people who are out to get Trump. And I don't care if it's the usual suspects or it's some name that you and I have never heard of before. The allegations he's referencing here are very, very serious. Very, very serious. So let's get into it.
Hey, everybody, it's Mike Schellenberger for Public. The House of Representatives impeached.
And I'm warning you that the story here he's about to lay out for you is a little complicated. It's a little complicated, and I'm going to try and walk you through it so we can better understand it.
Impeached President Donald Trump in December 2019 after a White House whistleblower went public with evidence that Trump had abused his powers by withholding military aid to Ukraine in order to dig up dirt on his rival Joe Biden.
So remember back to the first impeachment with the whole Zelensky phone call? So during the impeachment proceeding, there was a whole lot of testimony saying he wasn't just threatening Zelensky, he actually was carrying out that threat by using the OMB to stall payments to Zelensky and Ukraine, which we should call the Ukraine just to piss them off. So he's stalling those payments, and that's why he was impeached.
In the complaint, the whistleblower claimed to have heard from White House staff that Trump had, on a phone call, directed Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to work with his personal attorney at the time, Rudy Giuliani, to investigate Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. The whistleblower who triggered the impeachment was a CIA analyst who was first brought into the White House by the Obama administration.
And you might also recall that Adam Schiff, who presided over that impeachment, over that whole impeachment case, kept saying, I'm going to bring forward the whistleblower. I'm going to bring him forward. And then afterwards said, why do I have to bring him forward? And then when there's a whistleblower from the right, it's like, we know everything about these whistleblowers. We know everything. I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is. There's all these whistleblower protections when they're coming after Trump. They're like, no one can know who they are. But like, you know, when there's a whistleblower from the right side of the aisle, it's like they're doxxed. Everyone's like, no, how valid is this source anyway? We allowed ourselves to get trampled on way too much. So he's talking about the whistleblowers who came forward and were talking about what was on that phone call.
Reporting by Dropsite News last year revealed that the CIA whistleblower who triggered the impeachment was a CIA analyst who was first brought into the White House by the Obama administration. Reporting by Dropsite News last year revealed that the CIA analyst had relied on reporting by a supposedly independent investigative news organization called the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, or the OCCRP, which appears to have effectively operated as an arm of the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, which President Trump has just shut down.
Okay, so let's break down what he's talking about here so we're all digesting his story. Like I said, this is he packs a lot of information into a short time. My objective is to try and spell out what he's actually saying. So when the Zelensky proceedings happened, the impeachment, the beta version of impeachment in 2019, so you had this whistleblower come out and he got information. A lot of his information came from this OCCRP. What is OCCRP? That's the Organization for Criminal and Corruption Reporting Practices. They're supposedly a news agency. However, this independent news agency outside of government supposedly was actually a front for USAID. They were very much funded by USAID government. So it's basically the government, likely CIA, setting up this independent news agency called OCCRP. OCCRP ends up being ends up being the primary source that is repeatedly referenced by this whistleblower. This whistleblower is coming out and saying all these terrible things that Trump supposedly did with Ukraine and Zelensky, that he got his information from OCCRP, this independent news agency, which was actually a government agency.
The CIA whistleblower complaint cited a long report by OCCRP 4 times. The OCCRP report alleged that 2 Soviet-born Florida businessmen were key hidden actors behind a plan by Trump to investigate the Bidens.
So in that report that was referenced, there was 2 Floridian Russians, I guess Russians who transplanted Florida, who were supposedly part of Trump's whole thing.
Those 2 businessmen connected Giuliani to 2 former Ukrainian prosecutors, according to OCCRP. The OCCRP story was crucial to the House Democrats' impeachment claim, which is that Trump dispatched Giuliani as part of a coordinated effort to pressure a foreign country to interfere in the 2020 presidential election, which is why the whistleblower cited it 4 separate times.
So OCCRP basically says that this, in their report, we found these 2 Russians in Florida, and they say that they have all this detail about Giuliani and Trump working together to try and subvert American interests and investigate Biden and go after Biden. Remember, because going after your political opponent is terrible sin that no other president would ever do, 4 times indicting him. No other president would ever do, and here he is trying to go after Biden. So anyhow, so OCCRP says we got these 2 Russians. We got these 2 Russians who are now living in Florida who are telling us that Trump, and they know that Trump and Giuliani are working together to try and go after their political opponent Biden.
In a 2024 documentary that the German television broadcaster NDR made about OCCRP's dependence on the U.S. government, a USAID official confirmed that USAID approves OCCRP's annual work plan and approves of new hires of key personnel.
Okay, what's he saying now? Well, he's breaking down that NDR. So we got a new. So far we have USAID is funding OCCRP. Well, there's this other agency called NDR, which is an actual news agency that's located in Germany. NDR finds out about this link here, where OCCRP is basically a front for USAID. USAID plays a key role in who their personnel is, what stories they're covering. It's basically USAID's own news agency that's acting like it's independent, and it's just government agents. So NDR is going to break this story. Hey, everyone should know that this OCCRP, which was really key in the whole impeachment proceeding, they're actually from USAID. And it wasn't just NDR alone that was going to break this.
NDR had initiated and carried out the investigation with a French investigative news organization called Mediapart.
So they got this other, they had this, so it's the German news agency working together with a French agency, Mediapart.
An Italian news group called Il Fatto Quotidiano.
A third one from Italy that I can't pronounce.
Reporters United in Greece, and Dropsite News.
And then another place in Greece. So all these different news agencies, separate and apart from each other, from all over the EU, together with an American a news agency called Dropsite.
In the United States. However, according to a Mediapart story published the same day as the Dropsite News article, NDR censored the broadcast after U.S. journalist Drew Sullivan, the co-founder and head of OCCRP, placed pressure on the NDR management and made false accusations against the broadcaster's own journalists who had been involved in the project.
So this story starts breaking. Okay, it starts coming out, and NDR gets a phone call from Drew Sullivan. Who's Drew Sullivan? He's from this OCCRP that's all part of USAID. So this guy from OCCRP contacts NDR and starts putting pressure on them. You better kill this story.
On December 16th, DropSite's Ryan Grimm posted a link on X to the 26-minute-long documentary. NDR, Germany's public broadcaster, is facing a censorship scandal, he wrote, and it's defended itself by saying it never killed a news report about OCCRP and its State Department funding because no report was ever produced to kill. That was absurd, wrote Grimm. And
so NDR, after they killed it, must have had the fear of God put in them by Drew Sullivan and whatever other spooks were working with him in OCCRP, because NDR is claiming we never had any story. No, we never had any story. Nothing here. There's nothing to see. I don't know what pictures they have of the head of NDR. I don't know what blackmail they got on the head of NDR. But now NDR is claiming, hey, we never had any story about OCCRP and being tied to USAID.
Dozens, maybe hundreds of journalists knew it to be false. And now, of course, someone has leaked it. The DropSite journalistic collaboration revealed that OCCRP's original funding came from the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs of the United States State Department. And
so they were actually started by a different federal agency.
It quotes a USAID official who says,
Drew was just nervous about being linked with law enforcement. Yeah.
But why?
Well, because sources, maybe, right? If people that are going to give you information think, oh,
this guy's looking over his shoulder as he's talking. He's nervous as anything. He's like, I don't know if the government's going to come killing me on this. Let me try and throw some cover here. And maybe there were ties. There were some sort of ties, but he didn't want people to know. OCCRP didn't want any of the people knowing that they were tied to the government, not because it was actually working for the government. They just figured it's going to be hard to be an investigative reporter if folks know that you're a cop.
Oh, you're just an arm of, you're just a cop, right? I mean, maybe it's a problem. Or and other governments, say you're trying to get into a country and do something, and the government says, "Oh, what are you, law enforcement or not?" Right? Like, there's a need that the separation, the independence is important, because if you lose that, you lose your sense of like, your it's a value. Your reputation is incredibly important.
OCCRP.
But they weren't just started by cops. They were initially started by cops by some other bureau agency, but ultimately they end up basically being maintained by USAID. So the entire time they were it wasn't just started by cops, with government money. It was run and maintained by USAID.
It does not operate like a normal investigative journalism organization in that its goals appear to include interfering in foreign political matters, including foreign elections, that are aimed at regime change. Sullivan told NDR,
we've probably been responsible for about 5 or 6 countries changing over from one government to another government, because and getting, and people, prime ministers indicted or thrown out.
As such,
they did it in foreign countries, getting people thrown out. And now they're the key factor in the first impeachment of Trump.
It appears that the CIA, USAID, and OCCRP were all involved in the impeachment of President Trump in ways similar to the regime change operations that all 3 organizations engage in abroad. The difference here is that it is highly illegal and even treasonous for CIA, USAID, and its contractors and intermediaries, often called cutouts, to interfere in U.S. politics in this way. In response to questions that we sent to OCCRP, it threatened to file a lawsuit against us. The premise of your article is factually false and defamatory, wrote Miranda Petrusik, the editor-in-chief of OCCRP, in an email to us. The claim by DropSite News and partner media that USAID has control over editorial appointments has been disproven, she wrote, and we suggest you read our response to that. But neither OCCRP nor anyone else has disproved DropSite's allegations, and DropSite stands by them. And the evidence does not support OCCRP's claim of journalistic independence. If you're not already a subscriber to Public, please subscribe now to support our award-winning.
Great job by Michael. Great job. So DropSite is saying, I don't care what NDR is saying. There are hundreds of reporters who all know this story is true, and it is potentially treasonous because you're not allowed to the government's not allowed to interfere in politics and try to basically, who knows what the story is with these two, the source of OCCRP's reporting, which they're a government agency. They have two, as far as we know, anonymous Floridian Russians who are their source for how Giuliani and Trump were trying to purportedly, wrongfully ruin Biden's political chances in 2020. So, and they basically created the entire genesis for the first impeachment to literally depose the Trump administration, Trump 45, which is potentially treasonous. Now, who's involved here? Who would be charged? The answer to that question is it's not the names that you and I already know. I don't think it would be those names. It wouldn't be Biden, Pelosi's, Adam Schiff. It would be the people who are working for potentially USAID at the time, who were involved with this particular project. Out of the 14,000 employees they had, it would be people involved with OCCRP. It would be people who were covering those stories. Potentially could be the whistleblower if he or she is ever exposed. I think we once knew the name of the whistleblower. I believe it was men. I don't remember the name at all. Maybe one of you remembers that the name of the whistleblower got leaked. But potentially we could be seeing, if there's an investigation of this by Pam Bondi, we could be seeing charges of treason associated that basically relate back to this story. Because if you're a government agency here who's meddling to try and overthrow the current administration, and if they actually just made up this whole story about the two Russians, and this is OCCRP is working with agents of the government. Those agents who were associated with USAID and the communications between USAID, because they had oversight. They weren't just giving them money; they had oversight in the personnel who were working there. They had involvement in the different stories. I think that's what he said. They had involvement in stories that were being generated. So, if this story is completely made up, which I don't know that it was or it wasn't, but if the FBI goes in and checks out and sees that there's no legs, there was never any legs to this story, or that in that case, in theory, there could be treason. Could be charged of treason that Pam Bondi could be bringing. Treason is a death penalty. Treason is, you don't play around with treason. You don't play around with treason. So, yeah, that was. A lot of people saw this post, but I felt like it was so confusing. I mean, there's so many moving parts in this story. There's so many layers that have to be peeled back to actually digest what happened. So here's my synopsis. My synopsis for you. You have this news agency, which is coming across like, oh, we're completely independent, actually was started by one cop agency and ends up being maintained by USAID, government agency. So that's basically this plant fake news agency. The fake news agency ended up being the source of the whistleblower, meaning they basically are the genesis of the first impeachment proceeding by writing a story. And what's even more compelling about this is, OCCRP comes threatening one of the primary news stores, actual news agencies, NDR, and tells NDR, hey, you better kill that story. And they get so spooked by what Drew Sullivan from OCCRP says that they actually claim we never were working on this story. And DropSite is like, what are you, out of your minds? Of course you were. We were all part of this story. We were all part of covering this story and showing that there's a direct link between USAID and OCCRP. So it's still, we're in the preliminary stages. And I guess in theory, a lot of this, there's certain facts that remain unknown right now. Was that story that came from those two alleged Russian Floridians, was that an actual source, or was that just completely made up bogus? If it's an actual source, in that case, and that there's truth behind it, it still seems really, really dicey that they're the ones who are breaking this. Really, really dicey. Really? But if that was completely made up bunk in order to propagate and have this whistleblower come forward, that's real treason. To me, that's real treason. Because basically, and you have to ask yourself, okay, is Adam Schiff involved with that? Is he part of that whole thing? And I'll tell you this, I don't know if he's part of the J6 committee and got a pardon, and he rejected a pardon, didn't have a pardon. The J6 committee was only pardoned. It could lead all the way up to Adam Schiff because he clearly seemed to have very direct involvement with the whistleblower. Now, what stage he was involved with the whistleblower and whether he himself individually was responsible, I'm not leveling charges against any. I don't want to raise allegations and say that this person did something illegal because I don't know. I'm simply getting the same. If you have all the information now that I have, I'm simply saying it's possible based on the fact that Adam Schiff seems, at first he was so happy to trot him out there, and then all of a sudden became very protective. No one can question him. No one can talk to this whistleblower. You ask yourself, well, why? Why? And was he involved in this entire thing here to try and just create a completely false story for purposes of trying to get Trump removed from office, which would be treason? And the only pardon that Biden gave any of these folks was for their involvement with the J6 committee. But the J6 committee got nothing to do with this. This happened a year before J6. So that's 2 years before J6, a year and a half before J6. So yeah, so that is. I'm going to take a couple of phone calls from you because I'm wondering your thoughts on this. Do you think that this is potentially treason? That Pam Bondi, look, normally a story like this, you would figure, yeah, okay, fine. No one's going to actually run this up the flagpole and try and get charges brought. Do you think that Pam Bondi is going to track this thing down? Do you think that this will be a story that we're going to forget about, 2 weeks from now? Or is this something that is going to be a further developing story after, presumably, you would need the FBI involved to do an investigation here, but after Cash's confirmation that this is actually something that we're going to hear a lot more about? You would see where Trump would have an incentive to basically show that he really was a victim of completely just dastardly deeds, of just evil people who are desperate to have him removed. So, number to call is going to be in the banner down below. Number to call is 972-454-0703. Phone lines are open. 972-454-0703. 972-454-0703. I'm curious whether the real question I have is, do you think that this is a story we're going to hear a lot more about, or that this will die relatively soon? That's my question for you. That is my question for you. We'll make it 10 super chats. You know what? I'll make it. I don't even. No, I'm gonna just forget the goal. Let's forget the goal tonight. If you could hit like and subscribe while you're here, maybe, and drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Well, let me know what you think. Do you think that this is going to be a developing? There was treason here.
Call from
Miss Kemp.
Enos.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, you've taken my call.
Happily. It's my privileged pleasure.
Is this your first time?
All right.
I'm sorry. I was just asking you. Have I only called once?
I don't know. You're saying thank you for taking my call as if this was as if we're in virgin ground here. So
Oh, I mean, normally I would just get sent to a representative or somebody else.
no. Well, you're welcome.
So how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you doing?
You know, nobody else is scratching my ass.
Yeah, I gotta get to some like actual conversation with you soon because
Right. So let's talk.
Okay. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so you were talking about a little bit related to treason.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that becomes an issue nonetheless, based on the fact that treason is not only qualifiable, but also treason is questionable. Is treason objectionable? That's what I think you need to start asking your audience.
Is treason objectionable?
Yeah, because why do you make scratching somebody else's ass sound so easy?
All right, brother. I gotta get on to the next call.
I love you. Yeah. Well,
care. What the hell was that? I think sometimes I'm too patient. I think sometimes I'm way too patient. I was hoping that I was assuming that he was like trying to like be comedic or something and just failing, and I wasn't going to cut him off for that. But yeah, I don't know what the hell that was.
Call from
Grifty.
What's up, Joe? How you doing, buddy?
I'm awesome. How are you?
So I'm well, bud. I'm well. So I'm great actually with all this stuff coming out. We can't really beat times we're living in. No, I guess my question would be, is this treason or is this sedition? Because the 18 USC 2381 for treason says whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned no less. Sorry, I probably should have YouTube friendlied that.
That's a fair point. No, that's a fair point. That there's a distinction between sedition and treason. Treason's implying there's a foreign actor, and here there's no foreign actor. I'll grant you with that. I'm going to change my question. I was about to hit enter. I'll change treason / sedition because it is more seditious type of activity than treasonous. I appreciate that.
An important distinction.
No, I appreciate that.
I definitely think. Yeah, I think it's definitely an important distinction. So that was really all I wanted to say on that. And
do you think that this story? Do you think this story is going to be a big deal, or it's going to basically be something we'll forget about in a week?
I think it's going to get overshadowed right now. I think it's only going to become a big deal if Pam Bondi actually, if Bondi and Patel actually start picking it up and digging into it and like make statements about it.
Right.
Other than that, I think it'll probably drop to the background.
Well, yeah, obviously it's going to be dependent. That's really Grifty. You're kind of sidestepping the question. The question is, do you think they're going to pick up on it and develop and actually try and do an investigation? Obviously, if the government does nothing, if Trump's agencies do nothing to follow up on it, this is going to die. The question is.
I guess I'll take the I'll answer. I guess I'll take the unpopular opinion in that no, I don't think it will. I think I actually do take Trump at his word that he's not necessarily looking for retribution or anything like that, and he's really looking to fix the country moving forward. And I think targeting the funding issues through USAID and, you know, who knows what else Elon's going to find when he gets into like Medicare and stuff like that. Like he said, that's where the big fraud is going to be anyway.
Right.
So like these numbers we're looking at now is like chump change.
Right.
And I think when it comes
Which
to
I like that,
fixing
by the
the
way.
country moving forward,
I like that, by the way. The reason that's important is because if we heard about, let's say, $500 billion waste, right? Well, then when you hear about USAID and their $40 billion waste, you don't even think about it, right? It's better.
Right.
It's better to get the appetizer before you get the entree. So it's good that we can spend
I
time
agree.
fully digesting this appetizer of $40 billion worth of fraud in USAID. Let the left all scream, it's 1%, 1%, which I explained the other night how that's a ridiculous joke. The reason it's 1% is because our budget is so overbloated. If we had a normal size budget, it would be much more than 1%. So you wait. We have so much waste that this waste is insignificant. It's like, right. It's so stupid.
The one that really gets me, the biggest thing they're screaming about right now that gets me is that Elon is illegally going through the computer systems because he's unelected. Like, do these people think that only the elected politicians are going into the computer systems? Because I'd be willing to bet that
who in USAID, who in the Treasury Department, aside
never
from
go
the
in the
director,
system.
aside from the director, who in the Treasury Department is, I mean, and he's appointed. Who the hell is elected in the executive branch? There's only one person elected in the executive branch. The two people, I guess, technically. I know one. It's the president, not even the vice president.
Right.
He's the only person elected
fantastic.
there.
It's fantastic. So I did want to point out, I dropped my membership chat on it real quick, but while I'm on the phone, I'll point it out.
I'm pulling it up right now. What do you got here?
Okay.
50 says, could Biden's pardons be thrown out if he was proven incompetent? Tad doing a video of top Dem fundraisers saying he has firsthand knowledge he was. You would have a difficult time. You have a difficult time because you would need to show dispositively, and this is, I guess, Pam Bondi would have to prove dispositively. She would have to first try to prosecute these folks. If she prosecutes them, then first and foremost, the easier attack is to say blanket pardons are invalid, and that, you know, even if he had the power of a king, which a president does not have a power of king, but even if he were a king has to be pardoning a specific act. Otherwise the king has no knowledge of what he's pardoning. How can a king do something that he doesn't know what he's pardoning? You're not pardoning the person, you're pardoning the act of the person. And to just have any act associated with it when you don't know, for all you know, that person killed 6 million people and he didn't know about it, or there could be so much fraud there that it's ridiculous. So I think that does invalidate. I don't think that it's a valid pardon legally. It's just never been scrutinized before, because anytime someone has been gifted one of these, like Nixon, they were never prosecuted. So until a court weighs in as to whether or not it's a valid pardon, if people are acting like it's a valid pardon, it has the effect of being a valid pardon in that they're never charged. But that doesn't mean it actually, that if they were charged, it would stand up to judicial scrutiny. And that's why I think that's probably a better way to attack it. And the reason I say that is because there's an assumption we'll start with, which is, okay, when he came into office or whatever, at some point, we start with this assumption, okay? When he was vice president, do you think he had competence? Maybe he was a bit of an idiot, but he had mental capacity when he was vice president. So you tell me, what was the day he lost it? And you sort of start with we start with this established state of affairs that he had mental capacity at some point in his life. You're telling me he lost that mental capacity, even if he was brought into court, and someone was to actually drag his bedraggled ass out into a courtroom, sit him in a chair, and he's sitting there going, and he doesn't know anything that's happening. Well, you don't know that deficiency in his cognitive abilities. You have to prove that it relates all the way back in time to before January of 2025, which I've seen evidence of it. You've seen evidence of it, but seeing evidence of lack of cognitive ability is not the same thing as a court adjudicating that there is no cognitive ability. Yeah, just because he might have a bad day, might have a bad day we all saw the bad day he had at a debate with Trump. He looked terrible. But would you say he had zero cognitive deficiency? You know, maybe he was easily confused. What stage was he at there?
I wouldn't say anything, but the lady Lindy Lee that Sean Ryan had on his podcast today, who is a top fundraiser for the DNC, who is now worked with the Trump transition team because she was trying to blow the whistle on Biden. She says she has receipts, text messages of her like bringing this up and people telling her it's okay, they got it under control and everything else. She dropped names, she did it all, and that podcast got totally like pushed in the shadows today because of all this other USAID stuff.
Right.
And you know, I really just kind of want to bring a little bit of attention to that because it was definitely mind blowing.
Right. Yeah. No, I haven't seen it yet, other than the clip you shared with me, which I frankly didn't have a chance to even watch that clip. I saw you said that you tagged me in something or sent me a DM. I don't remember, but I remember seeing something from you, and with Lindy Lee sitting with Sean Ryan, and I am curious to check out that interview. I just I think that look, that it all now comes a question of fact. She's going to be saying he had no cognitive. So if you're, let's assume now that one of these beneficiaries of a pardon from Biden ends up being taken to court, and Pam Bondi wants to say that Biden did not have the mental capacity to issue a pardon. In that case, they would have to have a voir dire hearing to assess his mental capacity in January 2025. And evidence could be brought in by Lindy Lee and other folks who are around him to say that he was not competent. And then there would be other folks who would be coming and testify to say that he was competent. And it would ultimately be down to the, probably the presiding judge would sort of sit there as a little bench trial to try and assess whether or not Biden had competence. It's such a long process as opposed to just saying these pardons are invalid even if he was competent, right? And that's why I'm saying. That's why I think that it likely would not be the way. We're probably never going to hear a court ever assess that at some point during his administration Biden was legally incompetent. I can't. It was so many things would have to fall out for that to ever happen that I'd be surprised if that ever happened.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is maybe White House communications could show it, because her claim was flat out that the White House was being run by Joe Biden and Joe Biden's top aides.
Most of those communications would probably be hearsay.
The last 4 years.
Most of them would probably be hearsay.
Fair enough. But all right, man. Well, I don't want to take up any more time.
No, that was a great call.
Other people get a chance to talk.
That was a lot better than
one last thing.
asking about touching parts of my body the way the last caller was. So this was a vast improvement.
Yeah.
The bar was very low when you came in here. Very, very low bar that he set for you.
I saw that. I heard that. I just want to give a shout out to all my old school Gamergate people for the revelation that has kind of also gone under the radar, that Anita Sarkeesian and Feminist Frequency have been receiving like $250,000 payments as recently as 2023 from USAID to push the whole Gamergate narrative.
Really? All right.
Yes, sir.
There you go. Thank you, Grifty. Have a great night, my friend.
All right. Have a good one, Joe.
Bye-bye. Let me get to... Good evening, fellow diggers. Wear the tracksuit, drink the drinkade, because we're mostly not a cult. Precisely. Well said, Fletcher. Egyptian princess, welcome aboard. Welcome to the following, which is, as Fletcher says, it's not at all a cult.
Call from
Benjamin Richards.
Ben.
Hey.
Great. How you doing? You there?
I'm doing well.
All right, good. Let me get to some of these chats real quick, okay? Not even light treason. I don't know. Life of Brian. Wait, the organization is called OCCRP. OCC. Oh, crap. That's what OCCR at P. I see what you did there. I see. I'm getting visions of firing squad dancing with it, like sugar plums. Dastardly deeds not done dirt cheap. No, not at all cheap. What you just said is one of the most insanely. Oh, it's referring back to that call. And struggle. My bud served 19 years in the military, kicked for not taking the poke. He struggled to make ends meet and thought about tossing his ID and pretending to be an immigrant. This theft of our tax dollars. I'm beyond angry. You should be. You should be. And this is, as people are saying, just the tip of the iceberg. We're only getting started. Trump said Elon has top secret clearance. Really? All right. Well, there you go. Top men. Top men. All right. What do you got for me, Ben?
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me on. I really respect the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask. I'm not sure about the legal end of this stuff, so I don't know if it would be sedition or treason.
I may or may not be able to help you in that, but let's see.
Yeah. But aside from that, because I actually caught this report from Schellenberger earlier today. Just assuming it's accurate and assuming that the weight we're putting on these things is respective. Do you think it would be, I guess you could say, fruitful for the Trump admin to prosecute anyone on this? Not because it's not true or not because it wouldn't be right and just, but I think about Ford pardoning Nixon and Gore just kind of stepping down after the 2000 election, from the election. Because I wonder at what point would the Democrats and the government, swamp at large actually step down from this stuff? Would it just be a never-ending escalation? That's what I wanted to ask.
It's a great question, Ben. I think it's a great question. So, and I'll even further your point a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Trump went after Biden. Then they came after. Then other folks came after Trump with the impeachment. I mean, let's assume that Trump did try to investigate and go after Biden, and then they came after him with the impeachment. Then they come after him with these indictments. If he comes after them, are they going to come after him again? Should we just let's just wipe it clean and just look forward and forget about what happened 5 years ago in 2019, which I can't believe it's 5 years ago already, but it is. So, it's almost 5.5 years now, right? So, I understand that point. I understand that point. However, that would be to the degree he's going after his political enemies, right?
Yeah.
Meaning, if he's going after his political enemies, I'm talking about the big names that we know.
Yeah.
Like the Bidens of the world, the Pelosi's, the big name congressmen and women. That would be something that seems politically motivated. Going after rogue agents who are relatively unknown, I think it sends a message that you can't just get away because you're in this position of clearance and being in a particularly powerful cop agency, that you're not going to face retribution. That could potentially send. I'll ask you: is it not possible that could send a bad message to other nefarious actors in the future that, if I'm not a big name, no one's gonna ever actually come after me? In other words, I mean, if this really was a rogue agency and certain individuals, I'm not saying the whole agency was rogue, but I'm saying there were certain agents who were going rogue in an agency. I think, is it possible that that's less of a political attack and more a matter of these people, the same way a murderer? I mean, once it's done, you could say, well, it's over. She killed him. She's someone, who she really, I mean, I don't really like my question the way I framed it, because I guess the killer could kill again, as opposed to someone who's fired, that person wouldn't be in a position of authority to do it again. But I mean, anytime you have a someone who commits a terrible crime, in theory, you could say, well, it happened, it's over now. So, and especially if it's a crime that happened a while ago, like, well, it's over now, and the scenario doesn't seem presentable yet again. So let's move on. But I think maybe what are your thoughts on what I'm throwing back?
Yeah, what you're saying makes sense. It could be seen as very politically motivated to go after a big name, and I think that that's true. It would be a mistake, especially with Biden and his mental state. It's a trap waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Because no one would take it seriously, and it would just bring heat on Trump. But the question, I mean, part of it is also for me that just with public knowledge, the CIA at least has been pretty rogue since at least JFK, if not under Eisenhower. And I just don't know where you'd start in terms of not just CIA, but just who you would go after, because the stakes are already relatively, I'd say, politically mild. They're not low, but they're not insane. I would think that any approach, no matter how relatively low, if it's against the FBI, the CIA, will be treated as some kind of he's going after his political enemies, but he's working up the chain. So if he goes after rogue elements in the CIA or FBI, that will be framed, I would think, as he's purging state agencies that could pose some kind of intelligence check to his covert, cabal aims, and we have to protect the CIA or FBI. And he's going off of the most banal possible arm right now, which is USAID. I mean, it's something set up by executive order that is supposed to just, in theory, funnel extra money to places. It's not a super integral part of our government. And you could argue, well, yeah, it's a small dog barking really loud. But, I mean, we have his last term as proof in concept that before he even really does anything, they're going to try to take him, down.
Yeah,
So,
look, I mean, they're already talking. They already came to the House floor and we're talking about impeachment, right? So
we're
2 weeks in here.
So I just don't know where you logistically start. I think he's in a really great position politically right now, but it could just turn nasty real fast. So I'm not really questioning the veracity of all that stuff, because to me it rings true. My question would be, what's the best way to approach this while not kowtowing to your I don't know, political oppressors? I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation to be in.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I think it's a reasonable take. Like I'm not feeling a bloodthirst to go after these particular agents, and maybe I should be, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I'm just too tired of the back and forth.
Yeah.
So I'm not personally feeling a bloodthirst for it. I think some people probably would feel more of a bloodthirst for it than I would, and I can respect that perspective as well. I feel like I'm sort of between those folks and where you seem to be at. You seem to be at a thing of like, let's just freaking move on already. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who think, I think there's a lot of people who would agree with you on that. I think there's a lot of people. They're like, look, we just have much bigger things to deal with than some nut job, a bunch of nut jobs from 5 years ago, right? I mean, that's essentially how I would sort your perspective here. And I think that's a reasonable perspective of like, look, there's so much to be done to help fix us going forward. Do we really want to get bogged down trying to correct the wrongs, even if they were real wrongs? Like you were saying, you think that it does sound like there's legitimacy to this story. Do we really want to get bogged down in trying to right the past when there's so many things that are currently a problem that need to be addressed? And I think that's probably the strongest argument to say, let's just forget about it. And there is the upside of let's not have the back and forth continuing forever. I don't know. Here's what I'll throw back. To the extent you're making the argument, and I think those are two different arguments, and this is the best way I can look at what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
To the extent you can either make the argument of, look, we got way too much to do, and this is such a side distraction compared to how many things we can write to make America better, that like I don't want to invest resources into something from 5 years ago. That to me is a strong argument, much stronger than saying I don't want the back and forth. The reason I would tell you that saying I don't want the back and forth is an argument I used to accept and have recently rejected. The
Yeah.
reason I'm rejecting that argument, which I think is where you started, the reason I reject that is because the left never has anything else. Meaning, even if we were to stop and say, okay, we're going to put down our guns and stop slashing back at you, literally, they don't have any healthy policies to offer. So what they basically do is it's this propaganda machine about how terrible the right is and how we need to take out the right because the right is a threat to society and they want to kill trans people and they hate gays and they hate women and they hate minorities, they hate Jews, they hate everyone. And that's all the left is. So and that's all they have left because their policies have been so disastrous. So if we were to stop fighting back against them, they're still going to keep doing it. And if the motivation is, well, if we stop it, then they'll stop it. That's not a valid expectation given their history and what we see of this party at this point. That's literally all they have. Trump is evil. Look at the last campaign from Kamala, right? Her policies, she didn't have any real policies. Just I'm not Trump. I'm not Trump, and Trump is evil. We turn the page, which they meant to say turn the page away from Trump. Everyone interpreted it as turn the page away from you. But the point is, Trump is evil, and it's not uniquely Trump. Any other person who would have come up there and won, they would have treated the same way they treated Trump because that's all this party has. So if someone is coming to me with that second argument, which I think was actually technically your first, but coming with that argument B of if we stop fighting, we can end this cyclical back and forth. I'll tell you, you're not ending it. They're still going to keep doing it because they have nothing else. But if you're telling me that the reason we stop doing it is because it's too much of a distraction of genuine work we have to get done, that's a much more compelling argument to me. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I'll I guess if you have a second, I'll summarize my opinion and leave it at that.
Yeah, please. I want to make sure I didn't mischaracterize anything you said.
No,
good call.
No, yeah. I just want to say I was saying what you were saying. I was saying, but I was really saying it more from the perspective of how to have a functional second term.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if he does get, which maybe it's already happened, I can't remember. If he does get Patel and he gets the other appointments, especially Patel, I think that he will be able to do quite a bit, regardless of whether or not this is back and forth. But I wasn't thinking about it in the terms of, there's all this and that and ratcheting up, so it's just, too much for me. That's not really what I was thinking. I mean, it's functionally what I was saying, but what I was thinking was, I don't feel
we're so tired. You don't have the bloodlust. You don't have the bloodlust, and you're tired of it.
Yeah, well, it's not really that. I really want my government to be accountable, and I personally feel, though I'm relatively young, that it's hard for me to trust my government, regardless of an administration or party, since I know what happened to JFK. It's kind of hard to really have faith in voting, and I don't, I'm not a huge 100% with Trump guy, but I do see him and his presidency and the position he's in specifically now as a second-term president who's getting more, better appointments than the last time, who is learned from some of his mistakes, and just who he is a genuine opportunity. And I was really more saying, not that I, have, bloodlust and I got to get after the people who persecuted him politically, or that, well, I'm just not interested because, I want to move on. I don't know if you can move on without doing, anti-corruption, basically, nonpartisan government conspiracy, because there is some kind of deep state.
Yeah.
The problem is I don't know how you do that as Trump without, causing a political environment that could be used against him, especially because, it doesn't matter how ridiculous a narrative is.
Well, I'll tell you this, though, Ben.
While.
I'll point this out to you. There's nothing they can do to Trump anymore. I mean, his political career is over. We know the date that his political career is over, and that's January 20th, 2029. So after that, I mean, I don't see him, becoming a senator or going to the House. So
no.
it's not like the only thing they could do is come after him criminally after that time.
Well,
but
yeah.
but there's no political retribution he can ever face again. So
Yeah, I'm not worried about him.
Right.
I'm worried about general stability in the country.
Right. Oh, that's a fair point. That's fair.
Yeah. So
Right.
I want this. I want to move on in stability, but I don't know how you can do it currently because, as you said, with the way the Democratic Party is and the way that who knows how the Republican Party will be after Trump, I think the country isn't quite functioning. But on the other hand, to diagnose and operate on the body of American politics might cause greater trauma, so to speak, medically, than to leave it alone. And it's a hard call. That's basically what I was saying.
Okay, cool. Thank you, brother. Appreciate the call. That was a great call.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Oh, all right. Newsweek picked up a story of the U.S. flag upside down at State Department. I didn't pick up that story. I don't know what story you're talking about. Wait, what story are you talking about? I'm not sure. Trump said Elon, Joe, the biggest story will be child sex trafficking. People will be shocked to the core. There's so much work to get done. There's so much work to get done. There's so much to do. This is why the blinding pace that Trump is working at is so important, because there's so much to get done. There's so and it's so hard to appreciate the significance of all these different things that he's already done. And it's only been 3 weeks. We're in such a phenomenal period. You should thank God for the times that you live in and how long we've waited for this. Problem I have with this is we've seen this before. X was caught doing Y. Okay, then we don't hear about it again. The American people have a short memory, so they'll just wait for it to be forgotten. But will they? I mean, that's the question. That's essentially, K-Val, you're basically talking about the question. That's the question I have in my poll. And speaking of which, I'll pull that poll up, those of you who missed it. 40%, 25% say nothing burger, 40% think probably a real story, and 35% saying this will be a huge story. So I think more people think that Pam Bondi is going to pick up on it. I'm going to go forward. That's out of 358 votes. And problem, Elon has top secret SCI, special compartmentalized information clearance due to his SpaceX. Working in the White House requires what is called Yankee White clearance, close presidential support. That's probable. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that makes a lot of, I think he likely has gotten very high level clearance. So, and yeah, I mean, they did try assassination. Bloodthirst is, many people would think that bloodthirst is appropriate. Let me check over, make sure I didn't miss anything over here. I'll take one more call before I'm having a locals afterwards. I haven't done yet. I was like basically telling over blow by blow of my week in Israel. That week I was away last week. So I plan on doing that on locals at goodlogic.locals.com. Goodlogic.locals.com. I'm going to take one or two more calls, depending on how long they are. That's at goodlogic.locals.com. Right. That's going to be an after show party. Maybe take some of your questions and stuff like that.
Call from Rockham Needle Art.
Yo.
Good evening, Joe. How are you? How was your trip?
How are you, brother? It was excellent. Thank you.
Actually, my grandson and ex-wife were in Israel the same time you were.
Oh, wow. You should let me know. I could have hung out with them.
It's sort of a bar mitzvah trip.
Oh.
His bar mitzvah is in the spring.
I wonder if I saw them. I saw a bar mitzvah party when I was at the Kotel. So
No, it wasn't a bar mitzvah trip. It was a gift. It was a gift, meaning a gift for his bar mitzvah.
Oh, cool.
I have a little story that might give a little perspective on the people that work at the United States Agency for International Development.
Do it. Let's keep it. I want to keep it moving though. So,
Okay, yeah, no, and
so tell me your
he's
story.
he's since retired, but my brother had a friend in junior high and high school that since my brother and I are only 22 months apart, he became a friend of mine, and we also attended University of Michigan at the same time together.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a real sweetheart. His parents were both survivors,
Let's get
so
to
he
the
kind
story.
of okay. So he went to Northeastern, ended up getting a job as a lawyer working for the USAID, managing the contracts that disperse the money.
Okay.
And this was during the probably during the first Bush administration.
Uh-huh.
And we were together at some kind of celebration because he lived all over the place, Kathmandu and Ecuador and the Barbados. And he was telling me with glee how there was a contract he was managing going money to his particular Central or South American government that he personally didn't approve of. So he just slow walked the aid. And he was telling it to me with such glee. And he was generally a really, really wonderful person.
Mm-hmm.
And recently I asked my brother, how's Alan doing? And he said, well, and when I came to the States for his son's bar mitzvah, I said something about Middle Eastern politics that offended his in-laws so much that he ghosted me. So those are the kind of people that work at USAID.
Wow.
They decide to take the policy into their own hands.
Of course they do.
And they're willing to write off a 50-year friend for politics.
It's just. You ever been in? You're in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
You have a DMV, MVC. What do they call it by you?
It's the Secretary of State.
No, I'm saying you drive your Department of Motor Vehicles.
It's you're telling me where I'm getting my driver's license in Michigan. It's the Secretary of
They don't
State
have an
is
office.
responsible for driver's license.
They don't have an office specifically for whatever. When you go to get
Yes, they have Secretary of State offices where you go get your driver's license. It's the equivalent to the DMV here. Okay.
Okay. I clearly had no knowledge of that. Anyway, my point is if I go into the DMV in New York or the MV, what they call the MVC here in the Motor Vehicle Commission in Jersey, you can get someone who's going to basically give you a hard time and make life crazy for you, or they can basically get you out of there in 10 minutes if they like you. And they want to be nice. I've seen the same thing with judges. When I was doing judgment execution, I'll never forget. I had this one application I was trying to get into a safe deposit box that I wanted the court to approve to have a marshal go in there and take the assets that were in the safe deposit box. And this judge, and when you go into court, so I file my papers and I go into my court and make my oral application. So they have a calendar there of all the different cases that they're calling that morning. And there's 114. Sometimes they'll have 60. Sometimes they'll have 180. So I think there was over 100 cases on the calendar that morning. There's a judge I'd never appeared in front of. And I'm number 40 on the list. And when they're calling all the cases, they're not calling it in order. And somehow, one way or another, I end up being the very last case that they called. Sometimes they'll do it alphabetically. Sometimes it's very ad hoc, but they end up calling me up last. And the judge admitted to me. She said, I want you to know I called your case last on purpose, because I don't like these kinds of applications. I don't like applications that are trying to get into someone's safe deposit box, because I think that they are too violative and that you judgment execution companies are too aggressive. I'm like, somebody owes money here. I'm trying to help them collect it. Why does that make me the bad person? If not for folks like me, why are you issuing a judgment? Why are you doing it? What's the point? Like all 4 out of 5 judgments go completely uncollected. Why are you issue? Why do you have a job? Why do we need you to be here if no one's going to ever collect judgments? You want to keep people from being able to collect the judgment. Why issue a judgment? Why have any court system at all? Why have a civil court system? Like I'm making your job as a judge actually have purpose. Because even with folks like me, 4 out of 5 judgments go completely uncollected. Without us, it would be at least 9 out of 10, if not 98 out of 100 would go completely uncollected. So what the hell are you doing? You're saying, oh, I think you're very invasive. It's like I'm trying to help this person actually get something for all the investment they had in winning their case. So, but the point that I'm getting at is, yeah, that's a judge who's basically doing everything. She said, I'm going to try and go through your application. If I see a single flaw in this application, I'm rejecting it. I was like, my God, you talk about having an agenda. Yeah, and I saw that in housing court where they're like, I don't like evicting people. She hasn't paid rent in 2.5 years. But it's her home. I don't want her to lose her home. So like, people shouldn't live? Like the landlord should go bankrupt? Like because you feel bad for this person needs a home? Like you see activist judges who will basically do whatever they want to try to promote their agenda. You see in executive branch people doing whatever they want to help people or be as ticky-tacky as possible for people they dislike. We see this in every avenue of anyone who's playing a service type of role and their function, that they will treat things completely differently depending on their own personal agenda. And that's
people are still people, unfortunately.
Yeah, nature of the world. All right, my brother. I appreciate the call, my friend.
Be well.
Take care. Have a good night. All right. I think it's time for me to get on out of here. I'm supposed to be doing a locals. I am doing locals. That's happening now. All right. Well, there you go. I'm gonna land my plane over here. I was supposed to be there 15 minutes ago. I'm gonna be setting up that stream. That's at goodlawgic.locals.com. It's pinned in the comments. It's in the description. You want to join us in the locals after party? I got some funny stories to share with you. Some inspirational stories. Honestly, I don't remember what the hell happened. I'm gonna have to sit there as I'm going through there and just go day by day and try and sort it out. But probably gonna be pretty entertaining. So I urge you, join us over there. Goodlogic.locals.com. I'm gonna be there in 5 minutes. Goodlogic.locals.com. While you're here, before you get on out of here, like, subscribe, all that other good stuff. Drop a comment, drop a freaking comment. Obviously, I'm not streaming tomorrow. I will be on Layback Law tomorrow afternoon at noon Eastern time, and maybe back here Saturday night. If not Saturday night, then Sunday. You'll find that also. Goodlogic.locals.com. Goodlogic.locals.com. Lab meat. They, them. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. Someone shared this with me so right after the show. One thing I want to show you. If I can find it. Real quick. Here it is. This is perfect. Thank you, Haley. Haley, who's awesome. Haley P shared this with me. That's perfect to close out the week with this. Thank you, Haley. Klaus Schwab. Bill, they don't want to eat the bugs. They don't want my fake meat either. Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates. Burn down the food processing plants. Consider it done. I don't know who created that. It's got nothing to do with me. You would think it is. You would think I didn't make that. They got the don't eat the bugs. They got the lab meat is for they, them. Great job finding this. I don't know how you dug this up, Haley, but I appreciate you sharing that with me. And with that, I say to you, I'm going to see you over on Locals. So, yeah, that's our show. Till then, good night and Godspeed.